recording. Hello, Angela. How are you? She's not listening yet. Putting earphones in. Right, so officially welcome to the next installment of the Evolve series. So Francesca and Mandy, you joining us. Do you prefer to be called Mandy or Amanda? Mandy, okay, cool. So Mandy and Francesca haven't been with us on some of the others, so we welcome you here with us tonight. Cheryl, it's lovely to have you back tonight, and Hamri also. I think Nadine is also joining us tonight, and the rest are all catching up tomorrow as far as I know, but life has its own plans, so we go with the flow. So tonight we are dealing with probably one of the most interesting laws that we can deal with, and that is the law of non-interference. The law of non-interference has many different names, and we'll talk through quite a few of the knock-on impacts of this law, because it's kind of one of the laws that does not work by itself. It works with some of the other laws. But it's certainly one of the laws that is more prevalent at the moment. It's definitely one of the laws that if you had been doing spiritual work about 10 or 15 years ago, you may not have even heard of this law. So it's one that has been coming more and more into our consciousness, especially as a leverage point for transformation, especially those of you that are interested in things like ascension and the world changing into a new karmic pattern, the thing of going from the Aquarius age, all those sorts of good things. The law of non-interference becomes a really important aspect. So as always, you can keep yourselves on mute. There'll be plenty of chance to chat. So when we get in, you can put your video on and your microphone on then. But if you'd like to leave your video on, that's also okay. And then we'll use the chat box. So I see Linda's also sending some messages. So you can also use the chat box and send me messages or put up your hand or do whatever you need to on the chat box as well. I just want to check this. Okay, so 2 people are only joining us at 7:30, but we'll get started. Right, so as a starting point, it's lovely to just connect in and kind of connect in with yourself, because sometimes these days get very busy. Hello, Nikki. And we're kind of running around and running around and running around, and then all of a sudden it's 7 o'clock and we're supposed to be all present and ready for some spiritual awakening and all that stuff that goes with it. So kind of connect in with your body and your heart and your mind and your spirit, and take a minute to find a way to pull all those parts of you together, your body, your heart, your mind, and your spirit. And as you do that, you can put in the chat box one word that describes you at this point in time, one word that describes your mood, or how you're feeling, just one word to describe that. And you can put that in the chat box as we all kind of just settle into this space and time and connect in with the idea of who we are. Grateful, blessed, energetic, blessed. Oh, Mandy's all energetic. I'm going to need some of that. Francesca's buzzing. Hello. Oh, good God, I'm going to have to keep up with you guys. Accepting, present, raw, says Margot. Oh, my Lord. Oh, Angela's agreeing. She's also raw. Yeah. Okay. Raw's not bad. Raw means I'm open and exposing myself to what needs to be seen and felt and heard and experienced. Inquiring, says Cheryl. I always love it when Cheryl's on the calls because I learn new words from her. So my vocab expands. I have a boyfriend that speaks a lot of language, so I also get expanding language from him. Right. So the law of non-interference. I'm just going to share my screen and we can bring that up and then we can get going with that. So I'm just going to get up the chat box there. So we've got that. So if you're wanting to ask a question or share a reflection or bring up anything as I'm going through things, you're welcome to. I'm going to create lots of time and space for us to connect and reflect and chat through what is going on. But as you need to, you can also put up your hand in the participants window. And if you'd like to make sure you can always see me, you can pin my video if you want to do that. I'm just going to bring up attendees here. Where is it? All right. Okay. So the law of non-interference. So just connect in with yourself already, and you probably have been, you know, when we sign up to do spiritual work like we have been doing with this course, things start to happen in our lives. I've already been talking about the synchronicities, that as we've been going through flow and detachment and clarity and all the various laws that we've been working with, you would probably start to notice some synchronicity and some patterns and some signs that start to come up for you. And something starts to brew in our sort of unconscious as we start to work with some of these things. So if I had to ask you just to start reflecting on these words, the law of non-interference, just start to connect in with your own thoughts and questions and awarenesses and things that are coming up for you. And you're more than welcome to put that in the chat box. What does this bring up for you? What is this provoking you? What does this invite in you? And what does this maybe excite or even scare in you when we start talking about this law of non-interference? It is without a doubt in the work that I do with training healers. So when I do the Lifting the Veil program and train healers how to do energetic and spiritual healing, it is probably the law I have to kind of keep bringing up the most. Is we have this nasty habit of taking over, of getting involved, of sorting things out. So Hamri says leaving things as they are. So I need to let it be. Try not to fix it. So easy. So easy to say these things, yeah? So the law of non-interference, I'm going to check in around it, and as you kind of posting your questions and your thoughts and your reflections around it, we're going to do what we would normally do, and that's to have a look at the other laws and notice for yourself again, which ones jump out at you? Which of these laws grab your attention tonight? Because they never ever work as one. So there may be other laws that are calling for your attention as we start to work with the law of non-interference. Allowing others to experience their paths, allowance, knowing the impact of my actions. Try to stop helping. Yeah, Sandra, for me, I'm very conscious of interfering with someone's karma. Yeah. Be the observer and stand back to evaluate. Okay, so lots of awarenesses. If you're starting to notice any specific laws coming up for you, it can be useful. Grace jumps out, says Margot. Just notice which ones kind of grab your attention, because there's in all likelihood a link to that law for you, that the law of non-attachment is going to link to that. Grace and karma, great awarenesses, Hamri. Karma. Faith, says Sandra. So just as we go through tonight, you're going to see how these play out for you in quite a few interesting ways. Okay. So the law of non-interference, Linda, grace and abundance. Yeah? Flow and frequency. Angela says detachment and decree. Decree with a question mark. Is there a question you want to ask there, or is it a question of curiosity to see what comes out? Angela. Cheryl's also got decree and frequency. This beautiful law of decree here. Okay, so Angela, if there's a question there, let me know. So the law of non-interference, here's the description of the law of non-interference. You can start off with just kind of starting to see them. The law of non-interference is actually the law of harmony. So I'm going to pause there for a minute and get you to start noticing that relationship. The law of non-interference is actually the law of harmony. Let's just pause and I'll give you a chance to connect in with it. But just notice what that in its simplicity brings up for you. Is would you place non-interference on one scale with harmony? Most of us interfere to try and bring harmony. We interfere to try and bring peace. We interfere to try and get things going. But when we can start to see that non-interference aligns with the spiritual law of harmony, we can start to see how much our interference has impacted the world and how much it has caused this disharmony, so to speak. Okay, Angela, I feel drawn to that card, but not sure I know what the law of decree means, the decree law. So the law of decree, if I had to give it to you very simply, and it is one of the more complicated law, is the law of demand. So I can be demanding. Decree means I demand something. It is so. So when you end off a prayer and you say, and it is so, and it is so, and it is so, or so it be, or so it be, or so it be, or so it is, or so it is, or so it is, whichever way you do it, that's a decree. A decree is a final statement of demand. So just notice what comes up for you even as we say that. So the law of non-interference aligns with the law of harmony. So when I can stand back and not interfere, I can create harmony. It is resisting the urge to get involved in other people's experiences, either deliberately or unintentionally. So that's an or if you're thinking it's, oh, you might be confused. Unless they ask or give permission. So one of the very big things, if any of you have been paying attention in the world lately, we've got Black Lives Matter as a big movement lately, but last year, the year before, a few years before, we've had a lot of movement around the Me Too movement and about women coming forward in terms of the world of consent and how important consent is in actually bringing a sense of flow back to life. Is that consent is I say yes or I say no. And finding permission to say yes and to say no and to work with this permission is what is okay and what is not okay. Boundaries and consent and permission are very big energetic forces at this point. And I will be running a boundaries course. I see Nadine's joined us and she's going to ask me, I'm sure. But I will be running a boundaries course as soon as there's capacity to put it into the various things that we're doing. But you need to start noticing that if the law of non-interference is about harmony, every time I ignore consent, every time I ignore permission, every time I ignore a boundary, I am breaking the law of non-interference. And we do this a lot more than we think we do. We ask a friend, do you need help? And they say, no, I'm fine. And then we go and help them anyway. And we think it's being kind. We ask our children, do you want something? And they say no. And then we override it because we think we know better. These energetically start to pile up and cause mistrust and a lot of heartbreak in the world and cause a lot of mistrust. Oh, Angela, I'm terrible at this law. You'll see why. You'll see why shortly, is that most of us are just too caring, and we use care as a form of getting involved. And tonight we will talk a lot about soul blueprints and what a soul blueprint is and why it's important for us to allow non-interference to be the unfolding of each person's life. But more importantly, what we do want to focus on a little bit tonight is getting an awareness of why do you interfere? What's that about? What's the underlying hook that gets us to interfere in things, even when we know we should not interfere? We kind of get seduced into it. So what is that about, and how do we remove those hooks, and what goes on for us there? So I'm going to go on to the next slide and pause here for you. And I can hold up the original card as well if anybody would like. And what I'd like you to do is I want you to pay attention to this card for a minute and just almost in sort of a minute of quietness, connect in with this dragonfly and this card and notice what you get shown. What's the message you get given? What's the symbolism that comes up for you? What's the imagery that comes up for you? Whatever jumps out at you. So I'm going to give a minute of silence. So it's almost like meditating. It's a very quick 1-minute meditation on the card. And I want you to just write down for yourself what comes up. If you would rather look at the original, you can, or you can look at the screen. The choice is yours. Beautiful, Francesca. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and come back to this main screen where we all are. And I'm going to put you in very quickly for 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes, so not very long, so just manage that for yourself, into some breakout rooms. Hello, Nadine. See you there. Into some breakout rooms. I'm going to put you into 3 breakout rooms. And in those breakout rooms, just going to connect with the other people on the call and just share what were the messages that came up for you from this card. And let's just see what comes up. And when you come back, we'll get a debrief from the various groups. So I'm going to put you into 3 rooms. So you'll be 3 or 4 in a room, and I'm literally going to give you 3-4 minutes to have a chat about what came up for you. So let's go there and see. If you need to call me, give me a shout and I'll be there. Sorry, I need to change the settings. There was a setting that used to give you like a warning, but I see it switched it off. So like it's just mid-sentence. Yeah. I just interfere, you know, like there you are. Like, that's the end of that. Right, so let's get a little bit of reflection. So each group, just to kind of share what did come up. I know it's not a lot of time, but it starts to just give us some perspective. So which group would like to share first? You can just choose a spokesperson. You can nominate yourself, which is absolutely okay to be the spokesperson for your group. Which group would like to share more first?
I'll share. We came up with the analogy of giving us space and stillness and giving us a different perspective. And Linda's analogy was amazing. It was like we trying to control everything like a puppet, like we trying to attach everything with puppet strings, and by moving away it's almost like they dissolve so that other possibilities can materialize. It was beautiful.
Oh, wow, that's a beautiful way of seeing it. Okay, great, awesome. Next group. I love that relationship to last week's session, hey Linda, with the puppet strings that came up there. Yeah. Which group wants to go next? So I can't call you group 1, 2, and 3 because that doesn't make any sense. But whoever wants to speak next on behalf of your group. Right. Come on, you can volunteer. Angela, Nikki, yeah?
So ours was kind of built on each other. So there was definitely everyone kind of got the feeling that the dragonfly was raised above, almost like out of the picture. So like was a clearer perspective, because when you're in the situation, you can't see all the angles and really what's going on. Okay. And then for me, the yellow glow was almost like source. So I had the feeling that like there was more going on than what you could tell, like something like your higher self and beings of light have actually got the situation better than you can. Okay. And then Angela also noticed the spiral and how if you interfere with that, it doesn't get to the point where it's supposed to get to. So
perfect. Yeah, Nikki, you want to add anything else, Sydow? Okay, perfect. Last group. Who's the last group? What were your amazing insights? There was a third group. I know there was a third.
Yeah, no, we all being super polite. So it was Marie, Cheryl, myself, okay. And we all sort of holding back, expecting somebody else to speak, but I'll jump in. So super interesting, all very different in terms of what we got. So Marie instantly was kind of attracted to the dragonfly, and a lot of words kind of popped up in her mind around the dragonfly. So it was very much around movement, around Marie, you can also hop in and help here.
Freedom, choice, lessons, and own path.
Okay, your own path, freedom, choice.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And yeah, and Cheryl, on the other hand, who loves dragonflies, was very much attracted to the kind of path that the dragonfly was following in terms of the spiral. So it was very much around, she was kind of connecting the dragonfly to the spiral and the kind of movement and the achievement of that. So there was a harmony. So and also just moving upwards towards something was Cheryl, I don't know if you want to hop on and add anything. And then from my side, I was kind of very much drawn to the background actually, first off, and kind of it felt like it looked like one of those petri dishes of agar gel and bacteria growing. So there was something around kind of organic growth and nutrient and kind of the royal jelly of life. And then for me, the dragonfly was a little jarring and a bit like Nikki. I felt it kind of was in like a 3D kind of jumped out kind of repose kind of state, just separate from the kind of the flow of life as it was evolving.
Okay, perfect. Cheryl, do you want to add anything there, Cheryl? You're on mute, my love. Let's see if I can unmute you.
I find it
that three people can look at one thing, and the diversity of the impact of what you're receiving is so completely different. And I suppose it does depend largely on the attunement that you are actually making with that particular vision.
Yeah. Like all of you can sit here and look at this card. I mean, I haven't seen a petri dish, but I think now that you say it, I can see it there. And what's really interesting is when I channeled these cards, I didn't know which one was for which. So this presented itself and then became the law of non-interference. So it's a very back to front kind of way. But when you have a look at the card, some of the important things that come out, and I'm going to just share the screen again so that those of you that want to see it on the screen can see it that way. Just seem to have lost you all for a minute, sorry. Let me just see here, sorry, I lost you. Which is not very nice to lose you. So when we have a look at it, this is called the Fibonacci spiral, or the golden spiral, the golden mean. That's the sacred geometry symbol that we're working with. And the Fibonacci spiral, the golden spiral, is found a lot in nature as a natural expansion process. That each, if you ever look at the Fibonacci spiral, and if you're wanting to do anything around sacred geometry, this is expansion that happens in perfection. I'm going to say that again, expansion that happens in perfection. But in order for expansion to happen in the most perfect way, it's got to allow itself to multiply on itself. And so when you draw it, it's using the numbers and we add them onto each other and it starts to expand itself. And it's one of the most beautiful patterns to draw. And it's found in nature continuously. If you have a look at a pine cone, or you have a look at a succulent, or you have a look at a tree, any of these things, and we don't have enough time to do that tonight, you would start to notice the natural expansion spiral. So if I took a plant, you would start to see the smallest node is there, and then it duplicates itself, and then it gets bigger, and then it gets bigger. We can look at the human body, and we see the same expansion cycle that happens. So it's expansion at a natural pace, but it's not the perfect spiral, is it? It's not the spiral that I can control that says it must look like this. It's got this expanding energy to it. And the minute I interfere, then this stops. And we stop the natural expansion of life. Remember the law of harmony that we've been talking about. The other thing I want to bring in here at this point, and it's not something that necessarily would have been there, but the sort of flow of the dragonfly that is in harmony with it is, are we going back to source, or is there about moving away from? And this expansion in and out, you don't contract to go in. It's almost a natural process of drawing me back to source. And the crystal that came forward for tonight, I'm going to introduce that to you now because it's talking quite loudly, is called fluorite. So those of you that are interested in the crystal relationship of the laws, which we've been talking about each week, but not in as much depth as seems to be coming up tonight, is fluorite is it's called the master healer. So this is a fluorite pillar, and this is a fluorite skull. And if you can see in the colors, I don't know if you can see, but there's this purpley, green, pinkish, yellowish energy. So fluorite has so many different colors to it. Very interestingly, looks a little bit like the wings that are here on the dragonfly. And so fluorite is a master healer crystal because it brings about perspective. It brings, let's bring things back into flow, back into harmony. So you do need to start noticing the relationship that we've been talking about with the other laws. The law of non-interference, the law of, I love that. It looks like we lost Margot. Let me just let her in again. So the law of flow, the law of non-interference, the law of clarity are all really important laws as we start to work with the law of non-interference. So what are synonyms for interfering? What are the words we use to justify our interfering energies? So even before we think about how we interfere with people and life, what do you think are some of the words we use as individuals that kind of are the ways that we justify it? So we would say things like, meddling would be one that Mandy's there. I'm helping. I just want to help. No? What else? I'm caring. Exactly right. I can't stand by and do nothing. I'm caring. I'm interrupting something. I'm disrupting something. Cheryl, lovely awareness. I'm enabling. I'm enabling. Yeah. Some other words that you could use for colluding is one of the biggest reasons people interfere is because they love. I just love them too much. Because I love them, I need to solve the problem. All right, Nikki, we'll see you when you come back. I'm correcting it. I'm fixing it. I'm helping. I'm just solving the problem. Yeah. So these all sound completely rational when we start talking about it, and especially the amount of interference that happens under the guise of love. That's why those of you that picked up on the law of grace is quite an important thing, because unconditional love, source love, is called grace. Grace is the ability to be elegantly flowing with life, and we'll talk about the law of grace when we get there. Whereas human love is often the manipulation, the being needed, the wanting to control, the wanting to make sure things work out my way. And that's an interfering energy. And you just have to look at family dynamics to see how much interference gets called love. Families interfere with each other all the time. They interfere with each other in terms of choices around jobs, choices around partners, choices around lifestyles. Yeah? If you don't do it this way, then I will disown you is often something that we see being said for people. Yeah? And because I'm your family, somehow I have the right to interfere in your life. The meddling mother-in-law, yeah, the curious sister. Boundaries are not something that are respected in families very much. And so often it is better with friendships. I say that with a lot of love. And then we start to get things like cultures and religions and so on and so forth, where it's our divine right to interfere, that we're supposed to interfere. And when we start to even just notice this, is that we need to start truly making the distinction between love as in source love, grace, being able to support rather than help. So when we can move from helping to fixing, when we can move to loving, not trying to control. No? Exactly right, Nadine. Often projecting our own needs is the form of interfering, and we'll see how that plays out a little bit later. So we need to kind of get quite honest with ourselves as to what do we use to justify our interferences. And we will talk a little bit about what makes something actually helpful and something interfering, because there is a distinction. And the first part of that, the first part that you can start to own around what makes something helpful, supportive, and versus interfering. And the number one thing is it was asked for. Somebody asked you. And even when they asked you or gave you permission or gave you consent, they didn't do that on the back of you nagging them. So it's not just they've given in and said, okay, fine, help me then. Because that's not consent. That's just like giving up because you're so difficult in my life. So we need to start noticing, what does true consent sound like? What does true request sound like? Because there are also people that are going to ask for your help that don't want it. And so I'm going to also make that clear. You're going to have people that say, please, will you fix this for me? That's not asking for help, that's asking to be rescued. And that's when you get involved in that situation, it's still interfering. So learning to help someone help themselves is the distinction between helping them out of something. Can I say that again for you? Then to help someone to help themselves is different to helping somebody by doing things for them. And this is big, 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 exactly right, Cheryl. The ego-driven versus the soul-driven. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit just now about how do you know where you are interfering. But I hazard a great guess, just by the introduction we've had so far into this law, you already have a couple of clues of spaces and places and people where you are getting involved in things that you have not been asked to get involved with. And that might be on an individual level, and then we will talk about getting involved on collective levels. When do I help groups of people? Yeah. We've got a great racial injustice in the world. What is truly helpful there? What is interfering and what is helpful? Yeah. So we could use the very, very old quote that many of you will know, the distinction between teaching a man to fish and giving them fish. Is interfering is where I give you fish all the time. But when I teach you how to fish because you asked, and secondly, I teach you how to fish the way that you need to learn how to fish. What I mean by that is I might like fly fishing, but maybe you can fish by doing spear fishing. And so I'm not teaching you to fish my way, I empower you to fish your way. Now we're starting to get natural expansion happening in life. So if anybody has any questions or thoughts or comments, please feel free to interrupt me. Otherwise, I'm going to continue. But I'm very happy to take your questions and use the chat box. So, how do we interfere? And you can start to notice for yourself what comes up around these different areas of interference. How do we interfere? We can interfere on a physical level by doing physical things for people. Things that happen on a physical level is where we try and take away people's struggles, so to speak. We can interfere financially. We can interfere physically. So let's have a look at what might seem like a weird example, is that there was a guy that I once listened to who was born with no arms and no legs. And he was born into a family, I think it was of 4 or 5 children, I can't remember the number of things. And he said the greatest gift his mother ever gave him was not treating him differently to his brothers or sisters. So he would say he's hungry, so she'd say, go make some food. And he'd go like, she's off you go. And he made food for himself. And so he found ways to do what his brothers and sisters did for themselves. Now, she never did it in an unkind and a horrible way. She would obviously give him the tools and resources. So there were ladders for him to climb or things for him to do. And there were obviously different kinds of treatments that he went under, and he had psychological support and all these things. But there wasn't the, oh, shame, you can't let me do it for you energy. And in that, I'll treat you like you are broken. And because you get treated like you're broken, you start creating dependency on everyone to do things for you. Now, can he do it the same way? Not necessarily. but he can find a way. Now, as I even say that story to you, that may start to trigger stuff for us. Is that she's not standing there watching him struggle and laugh at him and making it more difficult for him, but she's also not assuming he can't do something just because he's different. She supports him in finding a way to do things that he needs to do so that he can care for himself. And this in the Buddhist path is often called the middle way. So underlying that is a really important thing. It's the assumption you can't. That means that's when I interfere, is because I've made the assumption you can't. You can't handle it, you can't do it, you're not able to. And that often goes with a sense of shame. Shame, he can't. Shame they haven't had the same opportunity as us. Shame that is awful. And that word shame is the lowest frequency of energy we can bring in a projection to anybody, because people start to believe in their shame. So we may need to find a way, but we don't have to assume you can't. Does that distinction make sense when I describe it that way? Tough law. This is a very tough law. It gets tougher as the night goes on. Yeah. So we need to start understanding the distinction of empathy and sympathy. And the sympathy is the shame. The minute you've got shame energy involved in anything, it's a very low frequency. Francesca, you bring up such a beautiful point. It's almost a tough love. And so we'll talk about tough love, because tough love is often that sort of idea of, shifting a pattern with someone. And so tough love is really a little bit of what we're talking about. And I almost would love to take it away and say it's true belief in people. That I believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. I believe in you even when you can't see what's possible. I'm not going to leave you alone. I'll be there, but I'm not going to do it for you either. And that actually is compassion. There's a level of kindness in that. When you see people's potential or what's possible without belittling it in any way, that's a very real gift we can give people. Yeah, it's better to believe in you. When we look at tough love in the world of addictions and those sorts of things, tough love is not changing you, it's changing my behavior, because my behavior is one that is often the sort of codependent. Cheryl used the word earlier, which is really important. It's, I'm trying to find the word you used, enabling. So if I'm enabling your pattern of behavior, tough love is when I stop enabling you. So that's what true tough love is I stop enabling you with things that are actually causing you to be the way you are. So that's physical. Emotionally, we interfere, and the empaths in the world, and the rescuers in the world, and the fixers of the world, and the mothers and the lovers of the world, we just want to make everybody happy. So we want to take away the pain. And as healers, many people on this call will be called to a world of healing. Healers are not here to take away pain. Healers are here to get people to find the way through their pain so that they can grow. But when we take away people's pain, that's a form of interference. So mentally is an interesting one. How do we interfere mentally? Does anybody have any ideas of how can we interfere mentally? How do we interfere on a mental level? What would be a thought you would have around that? Mentally interfering is where we want to make people think something. It's called manipulation. We can increase doubt. We can advise. We can have a strong opinion. I'll show you how. Yeah. So Margot will know a lot about this from the world of coaching that her and I studied many years ago. But if I came to you and I said, my boss thinks I'm an idiot, and I keep saying my boss thinks I'm an idiot, my boss thinks I'm an idiot, what do I think? Am I an idiot? Maybe I am. Maybe that's something I have to deal with, the law of clarity, you know? We're not, some of us are idiots in some things. But if my boss thinks I'm an idiot and what my boss thinks is more important than what I think, that's a mental interference. And so often we want people to see in themselves what we see in them. But we've got to get them to face what they see in themselves, exactly, projecting beliefs on others. Every time we go into some level of judgment of somebody being clever or stupid or right or wrong, it's to some extent interfering with their ability to think about something. And then spiritually, we can interfere with people by entrenching ourselves in a pathway that may have nothing to do with us. So we may bind ourselves, get involved in contracts, do all sorts of things that may actually not be supportive to somebody learning and healing and growing. Angela, come online and ask me that question in a little bit more detail if you can, please.
So I was thinking, I'm more and more I've listened, more I'm thinking I'm totally terrible about this law. So in my job, I'm trying to brainwash people. I'm trying to agree with me that we should be doing certain things as opposed to other, like, you know, I think is the right things, like to policy on reducing inequality. So let's do this as opposed to do that. And, you know, I'm trying to kind of lobby, making everyone agree with me. So I'm basically interfering with the field, with mentally and physically by trying to promote certain meeting as opposed to other. So how do we stand in, like, when your work is about to influence? So and how do you stand the one, you know, if you want to have some leadership on something? So what is the fine line between being a leader or interfering on the event? So how do we put a line there?
It's such a beautiful question, because in it we get all these dynamics of complexity of the human experience in there. Is that and when we were talking about the law of non-interference earlier, I said, what is it? And it's not sitting back and doing nothing. It's not. It's not about like going, oh, well, that is what it is, we'll do nothing. What it is about, when we can start to own the stature of influence rather than manipulation. And influence has a level of manipulation almost entrenched in it. But we have to start getting that distinction quite clear, is that manipulation is where I'm forcing you to agree with me. Manipulation is where I'm creating sort of, if you don't, you will get into trouble. If you do, then we'll do this, and sort of a way of trying to be in control of that. True influence energetically is where I can make my invitation to you so compelling you want to be there. Now, there's a subtlety in that difference, is that I have to invite you, and so I have to be open to the no. Think of it this way, and it might be a strange way for me to describe it. If I want to invite you on a date, the only way I'm going to know if you truly are answering me honestly is if I'm okay hearing no. And if I'm okay hearing no, then people can say yes and no to me, and both are trustworthy. So if I can create a compelling invitation around something that I believe in, if people say no, can I listen to the no? Do I invite the no? And when I can invite the no, then I have great power to start having dialogue and influence with people. But if nobody can say no to me, then it's probably through fear or some kind of manipulation that we're doing it. So does that distinction make sense, Angela? That we do need to call people to attention. We do need to create space to think about things differently, to harness collective wisdom for solving problems, for inspiring action around world problems that maybe we need to solve. But I may not know the right way. And so I need to invite the no. And when I get a no, I need to engage with that in the law of detachment, the law of flow, the law of clarity. So you'll see great influencers always invite the no. They're comfortable hearing no. And that's the best way to work with the law of non-interference. It is also being okay to say no to myself. Exactly right, Nadine. Yes, invitation of fact and choice without consequence. So you're not going to get into trouble with me if you disagree with me. Yeah. Angela, does that make sense when I talk about it that way?
Yes, no, totally.
Yeah. Okay, so when we have a look at the law of interference and we start to look at this on the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual aspects, we need to start valuing boundaries in people. And that if this is me, I have a boundary of this is my path, this is my life, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and this is you. And you are not less than me or inferior to me, and that is what respect is I honor the boundary of this. I honor that you have permission to make choices around your life. You have permission to say, do, be, and act in whichever way you want to. That is yours. It is not a reflection of me. It is a reflection of you. And so if you want to live your life that way, that's okay. You can. When I start to interfere, I start to control the way someone else must be. We cross in neurolinguistics programming and meta coach training, we talk about this as the line of insanity. Because now I've decided I am responsible for you. Okay, all right, Mandy, I'm going to talk about that right now. So just hold on to that for a second. And I'll talk about it in the chat box now. So I love this word responsibility because it's a big word. And I love breaking down this word to the way it was born, which is responsibility. Which means if we turn it around a little bit, I'm only responsible for the things I'm able to respond to. So I can't take responsibility for your financial situation because I can't respond to your financial situation. I'm not responsible for taking control of your health because I am not able to respond to your health challenges. I'm able to respond to you. So I am responsible to you, but I'm not responsible for you. I'm going to say that again. I'm responsible to you, but I'm not responsible for you. This is no matter how much you love the person, even if they are your spouse or your children. I'm responsible to you, but I'm not responsible for you. Now that in itself might start to trigger a whole lot of stuff around things. Of how do I sit back and let people make the choices they make? So Mandy says, I sometimes feel compelled to send Reiki or healing energy to my family through worry or concern. Is this interference? So Mandy, I think you're already starting to have a little bit of your own insights around that. I just want to find you on here. Let's see if you, finally, Anne, there you are. So Mandy's, I just found you scrolling through here. So Mandy, when I send Reiki energy through love, I send it to you, whether you use it or not, that's up to you. Then I'm responsible to you. When I'm worried and I feel compelled that you must get it, and are you feeling better because of it, then I'm taking responsibility for you. So we can send Reiki energy to anywhere in the world. Those that are open will receive it. You're not responsible for opening them up, for making them want it, for making them have to have it or use it or do any of these things. But I can send with absolute abundance. I can send with absolute love. Really importantly, if we can release the worry, because worry is a form of interference. Does that make sense when I describe that? I'm going to say it again because it's such an important point for so many people, is worry is a form of interference. Worry is not a form of love. When I worry about you, energetically, I'm sending the message you can't handle what's happening for you. So we need to create empathy and compassion, but not worry. Worry energetically is a hook. It's a bind that keeps you very, very, and it keeps the person being worried about small. Because energetically, they tap into that shame and worry energy on an unconscious level. So I know this is a very big topic. Does that make sense, Mandy? Nadine, I always take responsibility when things go wrong. How's your neck and your hips doing, Nadine? You get a little tired, my love. Well, carry the world on our shoulders. Those of us that take responsibility for everything that goes wrong, we carry the world on our shoulders. And our hips and our necks and our backs start to take a lot of strain. Is that the cure for that, on a very strange level, is nothing's wrong. There's nothing wrong. It's just flowing. When I code it as wrong, I attach to it. And we've got to look at the laws that have come before this law, because it's the really important ones that unhook things. When I code something as being wrong, I've got attached to it, and then I'm holding it. But if I just notice, how do I love through this? How do I flow? How do we move? Then we can all move. Nadine, does that make sense, my love? Okay. So some of the strangest ways I've heard, or simplest ways, or funniest ways, whichever you like, to think about responsibility, this idea that you have an energetic bubble and I have an energetic bubble, and you're responsible for your life and I'm responsible for my life, is, and I'm going to, some of you would have heard me say this before, but it's something that you'll often hear me talk about, is put your finger on your nose. So you can all put your finger on your nose right now. Everything that behind your finger is your problem. If it's not behind your finger, it's not yours. I don't know about you, but I have a full-time job dealing with the person behind my finger. Like I'm a circus all for one. I have a whole lot of shit going on. That is what I'm responsible for. That is what I'm able to respond to. That is what I can deal with. That is what I'm empowered to deal with. That is my karma. That is my calling. That is my life. Everything outside of me is something to be respected, and I need to be responsible to it, but not for it. A colleague of mine talks about this in a really, really fantastic way. She talks about, imagine this is a hula hoop. When you hula hoop, if you imagine a hula hoop and you stand in a hula hoop and you hula, it's quite a lot of fun. But I mean, it's like quite a lot of energy. You've got to hula. Try hula for somebody else. What are you going to do? Run around them with the hula hoop? Yeah? Hold them and run them around so the hula hoop works? You can't hula hoop for somebody else. And when two people get into the same hula hoop, unless you're looking for some kind of sexual kink, interesting stuff is going to happen. It's like too many people in one hula hoop is not supposed to happen. Because nobody can move. There's no freedom in that. So how do we all hula? How do we create space for everybody to be in their hula hoop and living their path and doing what they need to do? So, is non-interference doing nothing? What do you think? I mean, the obvious answer is going to seem simply no. We've got to get involved. Like, are you just going to sit back and watch the world just do what it does? Do we just do nothing when there's inequality? Do we just do nothing when somebody's screwing up their life? I've given you the first clue around this. The first clue is wait to be asked or offer. If you want to offer, you can offer, but please invite the no. And if somebody says no, honor it. Don't override no's in life. No, I don't want more food. Oh, but you look hungry. Here you go, have some. No, I don't want you to do that for me. Oh, but I love you so much, I'm going to do it anyway. What's very interesting, though, on the flip side of that, is are you all able to say yes when you are offered help? Can you receive it? Now you start to become a role model for support. Because if you're the person helping everybody all the time, but nobody can help you, then you're not teaching flow. You're teaching control. So the best way to let people learn how to receive help from you is to receive help yourself. So can you say yes is as important to do you hear no? Does that distinction make sense? Cheryl's bringing up a beautiful point. No is relinquishing and freeing. It absolutely is. And we need to hold space. To give people, some of you got that perspective when you looked at the card earlier. How do we give space to people to process, to flow, to find their path? And when they ask, I'm here. And when they ask, I don't suddenly take 15 years of advice and try and dump it on them. When they ask for help, you ask them, what does help look like to you? Okay, I'm going to say that again. When somebody says, can you help me, please? You say, yes. What does help look like? You don't decide that. Because what help looks like to them might not be there. When we start to look at some of the karmic patterns around this, and some of you have brought up the idea of karma, is that we can often interfere in contracts in such a big way that we can really influence people in ways that we haven't even begun to think about. I remember on Lifting the Veil, somebody told a story about how there was a father who had two children and was really battling with them at school, and the school wanted to get involved and take them away from the father because financially the father wasn't coping very well. There was no real abuse happening at all, other than the natural neglect that comes from not enough money. And they asked if they can help, and they asked if they could help, and they said no, and he was a very proud man, and truly if he'd been able to say yes to some help, because we do need to overcome our ego and our pride to receive help. But they intervened and they took the children away. And sadly, he killed himself the next day. Because that was the only thing that he had to live for at that point in time. Now, that doesn't mean the people that took the kids away did something wrong, because part of the karmic wounds would have been, so many patterns underneath that. But now we have two children with no parent, as opposed to two children that were loved by a parent who just didn't have money. So our assumptions of what help looks like is not always helping. So when we say, what does help look like? We can start to do the things that naturally align with natural expansion, as opposed to doing what we think needs to be done. Oh, Mandy, that's just lovely. People have raised money for me. It's very humbling, heartwarming. But you had to work with it. Exactly right. So to say yes. Oh, thank you, Cheryl, for acknowledging that in that way. So it's beautiful to share that. Thank you for doing that. So the law of non-interference does not say it's the law of inaction. There is great action in support. There is great action in love. There is great action in compassion. There's great action in care. It's just not interfering. And I know I'm interfering when I'm worried about your story more than you are. So what does the action look like is co-created. I ask you what help looks like. I came in the kitchen the other day and Eric was cooking and I said, would you like some help? He said, yes, please. So I started taking out the board and cutting onions. He says, that's not the help I wanted. He says, the help I wanted was for you to pour me a glass of wine. I said, okay, I can do that. My bad. Because now I'm not helping him anymore, am I? Now I'm controlling, now I'm taking over. So it's a silly example of this. Okay, so what does help look like is a really important part of this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about empathy at this point, and then I want to share some information around our soul contracts and how this all happens. But many of you are empaths or empathic in nature, so it means you feel quite a lot and you want to help people. And what happens for most empaths are healers that absorb energy and take on board other people's pain and take responsibility for the world's hurts. And as empaths, we absorb ourselves, everybody's stuff in ourselves, and we try and heal it for others. If I can heal it, then they will be better. Typically, you will know you as somebody who's very empathic when people want to talk to you. They tell you their problems. They tell you what's going on. And that's great relief for them, provided when they leave, they take their shit with them. They don't leave it all with you and feel better, and you start carrying all of their baggage for them. So boundaries become really important. And I love this picture that I found around empath, because if you have a look at these other actions, where love is a verb, where we can start to actually be empathic, is these are the things that we can do. We can listen, we can be present, I hear you, I see you, I honor you, I can understand what's going on for you, I have a warmth. Cheryl used the words, I can hold space. Nowhere on that picture do you see, I will fix it for you, I will take it away from you, I will do it for you. Don't worry, you don't have to do it anymore. That is not empathy. That is interfering. The greatest gift you can give anybody is listening to them. When people feel heard, witnessed, supported, there's this magical thing that happens. They find a solution for themselves. Now, if I can absolve myself of the responsibility to solve your problems, because remember, I'm only able to respond to my problems. I can't respond to your problems, but I can witness them. I can honor them. I can care for you in this moment. I can say you matter. Your experience matters. Your feelings matter. So when I look at the Black Lives Matter movement, I think all stories around Black Lives Matter are important. The stories of the people that want to say all lives matter, and the stories of the people that want to say Black Lives Matter, and the stories of people say, I don't want to talk about it at all. All of those, I can sit and honor each person, and that's called non-judgment. Is that I can listen to your experience of this because I can honor that as you. And then this magical ingredient happens when people feel heard and witnessed. They find resources to deal with it. And that's what the Fibonacci spiral is this, when I get noticed and seen, I can expand. I find a connection to something that is bigger than my pain. Does that resonate for anybody? Well, hopefully for everybody. Does that resonate? Anybody have anything coming up for you there that you want to share or ask? So I have so many people that I work with and they say, but I'm an empath. I have to do something. Never once did empaths say, do it. Do it for them, fix it for them, take it away, make yourself miserable, put yourself at risk, make sure you're burdened, self-sacrifice and hurt yourself in the process. Not once did it say that. So this is the contract of the empath, is learning to heal. And many of us that are empaths interfere. And then that's our karmic wound. And that's the ability to pay attention to ourselves, not miss ourselves. So, kind of going to take you through a little bit of the soul blueprint and just give you a little bit of insight into why this is important at this point, and we're going to end off with a meditation as we normally do. The soul blueprint is a whole big workshop by itself, so I'm not going to go through this, but essentially the soul blueprint is something that you co-created as a soul before you came to Earth. And you designed a lifetime for yourself so that you have maximum opportunity to heal and learn and grow. And guess what? So did everybody else. So every single soul on Earth has a soul blueprint. They designed it. So if I designed my life to be sitting in India on the side of the streets with poor parents, there's something there for me to experience in that. It's not that some of us got the good straw and some of us got the bad straw. We designed a life that gave us maximum opportunity for what it is I'm here to experience. Whether I do or don't experience it is a matter of interference, my own and others, with my path. When I allow it to unfold and where I overcome my wounds and I face my pain and I get witnessed and heard and loved through it, things can expand. So on the left here, you're going to see all the things that we take into our soul blueprint. And like I said, this is a whole workshop by itself, so I'm not going to go through it. But then we determine all of this stuff for our current life. Our body, our parents, our contracts we're going to have with people, the challenges we're going to face, the talents we have, the guides and teachers we meet, the opportunities and the wake-up calls. The thing I want to talk about tonight, because it's the thing that we most need to know about tonight when it comes to the law of non-interference, is patterns and archetypes. That as a soul, I determine a personality, a pattern of behavior, and some archetypal stories that are ways that I experience my life. And they are there to guide me in my lessons. They are there to guide me in my healing. They are there to guide me in the growth that I have. And so archetypes are like an imprint. It's an imprint of a certain kind of behavior. So if I said to you, somebody is such a princess, you automatically know what I'm talking about. It's an archetype. And a person will come to Earth with the archetype of princess because there's something to experience in that. I was sitting with a client the other day and the guides came forward straight away and said, oh, princess. And literally, this person sends me messages for me to do her beck and calling all times of the day. Could you fix this for me? Could you sort? She's a client. I get all these messages. It's the princess archetype. And there's something for her to learn in that, heal in that, grow in that. And all archetypes can be serving us or holding us back. So we will choose the archetypes where some are serving us and some are holding us back. But all archetypes have a journey to it. So I might have the archetype of healer, but I could be in wounded healer. And I have to heal that myself so I can move into empowered healer. So there's a journey to that archetype. And this is, again, a big topic, but I want to just bring it in to show you a few things around it. So when we start noticing an archetype exists in a person for their growth, for their healing, for their expansion. Similarly, if we turn it around, the archetypes I have are for my healing, my growth, my expansion. What we start to see, and I know it's late, so bear with me when this might feel a bit overwhelming, is we all have 4 trigger archetypes. They're going to trigger you into wounds. They're going to trigger you into pain. And then we all have archetypes that exist within our spiritual body, mental body, emotional body, and physical body. We're not going to go through all archetypes tonight. We will be here for years. The archetype course is another course. But what I do want to take you through is the awareness that we all have the same 4 trigger archetypes. Every soul that comes to earth has the same 4 trigger archetypes that are the wounds for us to overcome, and it's how we heal our ego and our karma so we can grow into our spirit. And those 4 archetypal patterns are: we all have a victim in us. We all have a prostitute in us. We all have a saboteur in ourselves. And we all have an addict. So, understanding how my victim presents herself to me. So I might have a victim when it comes to money. You might have a victim when it comes to love. Somebody else might have a victim when it comes to spiritual purpose. But the victim is the world is against me, woe is me, I have no power, I can't deal with it, somebody's bullying me. The victim blames someone for something that's going on in my life. We all have a victim. The intention of the victim is for us to learn how to take accountability for our lives. That we can continue blaming others, or we can take accountability. And that is how we heal the victim, and it'll be there with you throughout your life as a constant source of reminder of taking accountability. We all have a prostitute. It's a part of ourselves that we'll sell for something. I'll sacrifice, I'll sell myself for this. I'll sell my soul for money, or I'll sell my body for safety. Or I'll sell my ideas for, the sense of belonging. There's a part of me where I will sell that thing that's important to me to get something else. I believe it's a trade-off. The prostitute, though somebody chose the law of abundance earlier, the prostitute stops us from having abundance because it believes in trade-off. So we have to overcome the prostitutes in ourselves, which means that we stop trading off and we start looking for boundaries and ways to assert ourselves in the world. But it's useful to know we all have it. It's there. We all have a saboteur. This is the critic in your mind. This is the part of you that has doubt. It says, I'm not worth it. That will sabotage myself. Maybe I sabotage myself when it comes to my health. Maybe I sabotage myself when it comes to money. Learning the spiritual path is a lot about learning about these egoic aspects of yourself and knowing how they present themselves to you and what it's asking for and how it gets healed. Oh, and we all have the addict. The addict is what we dealt with in the law of detachment, isn't it? The addict is I need this to be safe. I need this to feel alive. I need this to be okay. These 4 archetypes are lovely. They fuck us up 6 love daily because we have to learn how to play with them. We have to learn how to be compassionate and kind and notice them and teach them what we need so we can heal from it. And this is healing our own wounds, healing our own ego, and healing our own karma. We choose how these parts of our personality form so that we can deal with them. And they absolutely can manifest themselves on a group consciousness level. So what's Earth's victimness? What's Earth's prostitution? What's Earth's sabotage? What's Earth's addictions? When we see group patterns like we are right now, start seeing this happening on a group level. that's for healing. I hope it's making sense. I know it's a lot of context. So, when I interfere, I'm often interfering against these things. So it holds it in place. So your hook for interfering is where you see something in someone else that you have not dealt with in yourself. So I might want to help all the victims in the world because I have not come to terms with the victim in me. Only when I heal that in myself am I able to teach others how to heal it in themselves. So let me pause there and find out any thoughts or comments or questions coming up for anyone around these. The world of compassion and kindness is really being kind to the victim, the prostitute, the saboteur, and the addict, and ourselves. And learning how to love them gracefully. So me and Mandy, if I pick on you because you put up this beautiful story that you did, is not having a job doesn't mean you have to become a victim or a prostitute or a saboteur. The lesson has been learning to receive, hasn't it? And learning to be cared for and helped. But we all need to notice the part of me that feels sorry for myself, the part of me that feels like I just need to lie here and take this, the part of me that goes and sabotages myself by doing things I intentionally have decided not to do. By the way, I decided I was going to do this, and all of a sudden I'm doing that. I'm like, how the hell did I do that to myself? Yeah? And the addict that really just reinforces the patterns of self-abuse in many ways. Yeah, the loudest voice is often trying not to hear the internal whispers. So when you have somebody present something to you and you start going, shame, oh dear, that's awful, what's going on here? And you want to go and get involved. What's the archetype you're seeing in them that you haven't wanted to deal with in yourself yet? So, I'm not even going to take you through that because it is just too much information, this part here. It's another course. When we start to look at how do we change this dynamic, how do we move from the path of non-interference to one of true growth? Because every time we interfere, remember, we bring disharmony. So how do we move back to a place of allowing harmony to happen through not interfering? Is that I trust that you have the resources in you to deal with what you need to deal with. And I trust I do, but I can honor you. I can be empathetic. I can witness you. I can support you. I can be present to you. I can love you without fixing you. You know, Angela, so by seeing the victim, you're actually filling your own victim archetype. Exactly right. Angela, where is she? I have to see her face. Exactly. Exactly. So do you believe your own victim? Where is your victim presenting herself? And how do you believe that and heal that? And this is really the art for healers, is being able to notice these patterns. Because the difference is then I start projecting my need to be rescued. Because remember, the victim wants to be rescued. Let me just go back here. The victim wants to be rescued. I want someone to rescue me. I want somebody to fix it for me. I want somebody to take it away. I want somebody to make it better. And if they don't, I'm going to blame them. And that'll move from person to person and place to place. The prostitute wants a pimp. Someone to protect me. Someone to take care of the difficult stuff for me. Somebody to make it safe. The saboteur. I want someone the saboteur at the heart of it, no matter how it presents itself, really stands at the heart of I'm not worthy. So I want someone else to see my worthiness. And if I've sacrificed myself enough, maybe then I will be rewarded. And the addict also lies at the heart of I'm not whole enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not light. So when we notice our own victim, our own prostitute, our own saboteur, our own addict, and trust me, we all have very deep stories around this, and every soul has a completely different complexity of how this manifests itself in its life. Because I know when each soul presents themselves to me that the victim that they're experiencing is for them to experience the way they can overcome their own adversity and take accountability. But the prostitute is their own way of learning to see their own boundaries and their own abundance. And the saboteur is their own way of seeing their own self-worth. And the addict is a way of seeing their own light. And if I interfere with that, they'll never get there. They will never get to see the other side of it, as will none of us, and then will none of humanity. So the ascension is when we've healed these patterns. We don't believe them as the only pathway. Right. Before I go into Mother Mary and the power of prayer and how that can support all of this, is there anybody who has any reflections or questions? I'd like to take just 2 or 3 questions or reflections from anybody in the group. Anything coming up for anybody? Everybody's deep in thought, facing their own victimness. Okay. All right. Okay, I can see you all very deep in reflection. A lot of recognition and resonance. Okay, lots to think about, lots of clarity. I'm fully aware, as I was even doing this, is like this opens up doorway to starting to see things completely differently. And remember, the laws that follow from this will help put things in different perspectives. But it is going to open you up to start to notice yourself on a completely different level. Because when we look at the way that this shifts things, is we need to start truly understanding love. This is wild stuff, so much to process. So many of BFOs, says Linda. So if you don't know what a BFO is, for those of you that have never heard me talk about it, a BFO is a blinding flash of obviousness. It suddenly hits you and you go, it's often called an aha moment, but I think BFO is much more impactful. So when we start to understand compassion and true love, compassion means no matter what happens, I can witness you. I can honor you in your experience. I can witness you. I never, ever, ever feel sorry for you. And I never, ever go, oh, shame, you can't have. Now, very interestingly for me in my life, it's much easier to do with people further away from me than it is to do with people close to me. Because the closer you are to me, the more, we get contaminated because we have our own karma. And I see myself in it, and I see my own responsibilities, and I see my own patterns and all these sorts of things. But true compassion is the ability to say, I believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. True compassion is the ability to hold your pain sacred as you work through it, to create that space of power. Because when we can hold somebody sacred, they will find their power. They will know they are loved enough to find it. And that is why Mother Mary is the angel for this law. Mother Mary is the nurturing angel. She is the true voice of compassion for Mother Earth as a whole and for every soul that comes to Earth. But please, if you work with Mother Mary, she never goes, you can just sit here and wallow in it either. She does have it's a safe place, I love you. What the fuck are you going to do about it now? No? Let's get on with it. Let's take action. Let's deal with it. And when we start to understand the power of prayer as a skill, of a tool that we have, prayer is one of the most amazing things if you use it properly. What I mean by using it properly is many people pray for things to be taken away. When you start to understand true compassion and grace and the work that we've been doing tonight, then you can pray for the courage to face it, to face the victim, to face the pain, to heal the addictions, to do what needs to be done. So it's not the power to take it away, it's the power to learn from it, grow from it, heal from it, expand from it, to take action around what needs to be taken. So for those of you that feel like you can stay awake, even if you can't stay awake, meditations work. But I'm going to be taking you through a meditation from Mother Mary, which I'll then post tomorrow as well. So if you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and you feel like you'd rather do the meditation later, that's perfectly understandable and okay. But otherwise, if you'd like to go into the meditation, they're normally about 10, 12 minutes maximum. I'm going to take you through a meditation where Mother Mary will integrate the energy of tonight and bring you into a place, a womb of compassion and love for healing, for yourself, for others around you, for the world as a whole. So if anybody wants to leave, just let me know. Otherwise, what I'm going to do here is stop this sharing and come back to this group. And we're going to do a beautiful, beautiful meditation. I'm going to just record on here at the same time. Right. I'm just going to put you on mute so that doesn't interfere there. All right, so you're ready. This would be it. This is your excited faces. Okay, not seeing this. All right. Okie dokie. Okay, so we're going to do meditation with Mother Mary. So take a minute and just settle yourself into the space you're in. Allow yourself to just notice the sounds around you. If you have your eyes open, the sights around you. Become aware of the air around you. What does it feel like to be alive right now? Life is a wonderful gift. This moment, right now, is a moment of life. Life has a lot of complexity to it. With life comes a physical experience. And to just notice your body, what it feels like to be alive. So much to cherish. You can cherish the parts of you that feel calm and graceful. You can cherish the parts of you that feel tired and achy, overwhelmed. All needs to be witnessed and noticed. The same part. So you continue on this reflection of life with all its ups and downs, ins and outs, bits and pieces. as you settle into the true wisdom of knowing that none of it is good and none of it is bad. Nothing needs to be changed, yet everything can evolve and expand. The natural process of life is one of expanding into true potential, of being in harmony with all. That your life, my life, all lives naturally unfold. As you start to notice this, just sit in the awareness of witnessing all aspects of your life. You start to feel a warmth around you, a comfort, like a warm blanket. This warmth has with it a color that feels precious to you. There's no risk here, there's no danger, just love. This feeling of warmth and love surrounds you. You start to trust it a little more. You start to open yourself to receive it a little more. And you put your hands out, opening up, moving your heart space open to receive more warmth, more love, more compassion, more kindness. And as your heart opens up to receiving, Mother Mary presents herself to you in all her grace. She smiles at you in a way that makes you feel like you've known her forever. With an intimacy that astounds you. Yet it doesn't scare you. She can see all of you. She looks deep into your eyes and into your heart. And you know she can see everything. All actions that you're proud of, and some that you're not. She can see all the parts of you. And she loves all of it equally. And she starts surrounding all the wounds that you've experienced in love all the regrets you have in love, all the hopes and dreams that you have in love, all the failings and things that you're ashamed of in love, all the parts of you come together in some sacred, woven, cherished piece of artwork that is you, all held together by her love. She invites in your victim. Come forward and be loved. She invites in the addict in you. Come forward, be loved. She invites in the prostitute in you. Come forward, be loved. And she invites in the part of you that sabotages yourself. Come forward, be loved. And all other parts of you may be trying to hide. She coaxes out. Come forward and be loved. As all of these parts of you settle into your heart, knowing that love is the greatest transformer of all pain. There is a part of you that feels deeply, deeply settled, whole, warm, cherished, adored. Nothing needs to be changed. Nothing needs to be fixed. Everything can flow once it's connected together. Mother Mary starts to seal your auric field. She runs her hands and her energy field around your body. Making you a container, a vessel for love for yourself. For all the parts of you. And she runs her hand through your energy field. It's like having a warm bath where everything just settles into a place of ease and naturalness, harmony, inner harmony, inner peace. And she places her hands on your eyes, on your throat, and down on your heart, and then down on your solar plexus. As she's doing this, she's activating your eyes to see only love, your voice to speak only love, your heart to feel only love, and your solar plexus to be safe in the experience of love. You are a channel for love, for peace, for harmony. This is your gift to the world, and this is her gift to you. She reminds you to embrace this gift in your life as she steps away from you and creates a space for you to come back to the here and now, knowing you can reconnect with her at any time. Right, so you can come back and lay your fingers in your arms and your body and show you all ready for a nice warm bed. If you haven't found it already. Right, so I don't know what that was like to receive it like that, but to receive it like this was kind of fun. It was really beautiful. So thank you for staying present to that. It was just lovely. Her energy is beautiful. So that brings us to the law, to the end of this recording of the law of non-interference. Next week we have a break, and the Wednesday after that is the law of karma. So we'll be dealing with karma at that point. Anybody need to ask anything, you're more than welcome to hang around and do that. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I love you all madly. You're amazing souls. Thank you for doing this work. Good night, everyone.